Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Oakfield Farm, where today we're going to buy a couple of fields. We're over here at field 2 on the map, and let's look. 107,000, we got 437,000, let's buy this. If I just give this road a quick cross, we can actually buy field 15 at the same time, which pretty much halves our money, but now we've got two very big grass fields. That means we can work on getting hay bales made, potentially even hay pellets if I want to get the BM modding pellet majiggy baler thing, which is tempting actually. I don't like how these gates work. But if I were to make hay bales, I might copy the thing Landy's been doing recently, is make hay pellets, and apparently they sell for quite a lot. But so do the bales. So I'm not entirely sure which one I want to do. In any case, let's get our luscious green grass mowed. Gonna say in advance, I'm not even sorry for using the Fastrac for this. I want to try and get all my vehicles used on the farm in videos, so I don't mind using a Fastrac to do this. And you can see that with the tweak I did to the density of the grass, it does actually look really nice. I'm gonna be honest. Like it mows in a vaguely believable manner. I know the windrow isn't quite as thick as it would be if there was this much grass going through it in real life, but I feel like it's a good compromise between having a stupid windrow and having like stupid sparse grass. Now of course I can also tweak the windrow and make that a bit more realistic, but I no, because that screws with physics too. It's not something I particularly want to do. Now I did see that on Tuesday, when I'm recording this, GTX Modding released a new version of their Big M. Even though they're under, I think, Gas Mod Company now, under that banner. And it is the version that has the wide swath. Now, I'm going to, before even looking at it, criticize it for one thing. Wide swath deposit in a Big M in real life is not a wide swath where it just lays it all down flat. Wide swath deposit in a real life Big M is actually a triple swath, where it lays one swath from each mowing deck. That's not the way that the GTX Modding LS Mod Company one works, so I'm going to criticize that for kind of a realism flaw. Which I know usually I make fun of people who do that, but when it comes to equipment I do want to criticize realism quite often, especially in how they work, so neener, I get to be a hypocrite. But you can see this is quite a large field. This is going to take a little while, which is part of the reason I'm using the Fastrac, is this thing can just power through the field at 30 kilometers an hour and not really care about the mower on the side. I'm wondering in advance how many people are going to complain about the fact that I've just got an offset mower like this, because, you know, in real life, I know you'd probably have at least a front mower on the front as well, and possibly you'd actually just get a contracting team in with butterfly mowers to do a field this size. You can't do that in Farm Sim. You can't call in contracting teams, unfortunately. Well, you can, but I don't like the idea of the online contracting thing, especially seeing as I'm using an edited version of the map, which you guys know I love tweaking the map. I love just giving maps little tweaks to improve little tiny things I feel can be improved, and I feel like my tweak to the grass density, or to the crop densities, is actually really good. I'm gonna say that. I'm quite proud of how this looks, because it looks realistic. Yes, the sprites, which are the grass, which is the grass in game, do overlap a bit and do clip into each other a bit, but Do you know what? It looks really quite realistic. And for those of you who are probably wondering, hey, can you do sugarcane on this map? No, 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 it doesn't work. There is no physical way of doing sugarcane on this map. Oxygendavid does not have this prepared for sugarcane, and I am so glad that he doesn't, because number one, sugarcane is the dumbest crop in farm sim, and number two, why would you want to do sugarcane in the UK? If you want to do a realistic crop that takes an age to do anything with, do poplars, because they do them in the UK. In fact, they do them in Northern Ireland. There's a farm in, I think, Donegal that does poplar harvesting. Or I think they might use like energy willows or something. But you know, poplars are a thing done in the UK. So if you want a crop that takes an inordinate amount of time to do anything with, poplars. So this is kind of just rushing through the grass at a pace that I wasn't kind of expecting. Now I will be turning this into hay because that's the it's the crop I'm kind of most set up for with grass, or I guess the product of grass, because I do have a tedder, I do have a windrower, I do have obviously the baler. So I feel like that's going to be the most logical thing to do. Hang on, I've got a YouTube video playing in the background that's just a bit too loud. So I'm using, I've got a stream on of the Falcon Heavy launch attempt, which isn't due for another hour or so, so I can just mute the stream for a bit and talk to you guys. Yes, I am one of these sad space nerds who's following the Falcon Heavy launch attempt, and yes, I am using keyboard still, because I still haven't got my room sorted out. That's actually something I'm planning for later this week, which is why I'm kind of bulk recording today. Not as much as I'd like, but a bit. I should get another video recorded today, and then I can figure out what to do for the rest of the week. From there, hopefully get my room sorted, or at least the floor, so that I can find the transformer for the wheel and get that running again. But like, we're already on our third headland, and we've only been going for about 8 minutes, including like 8 minutes, including a bit of time before I started actually recording properly, to get my sync point in, and then buying the 2 fields and that kind of stuff. So I think we're doing quite well. I think we're doing quite well time-wise. I'm gonna do, I think, 4 headlands here will work, and then we'll start going up and down, probably along that far side because it's relatively straight. I do quite like this more though, because it does like the swath doesn't make much sense, but it is a nice wide swath at the same time, and it cuts a nice wide amount out of the grass, so it is quite good. This is the mower from the Coon DLC. I'm not using Brian's mower today because it weighs like 10 tons and I haven't got around to trying to fix it yet. That's another thing I'm hopefully going to potentially do later this week, because that thing, I think I can get the suspension working in a way that makes some sort of sense. And if I can, then I can lower the density of it and make it a sensible weight for a mower. Even if the suspension ends up not making any sense, I'm going to try and get it working so the suspension can actually take some sort of shock absorbance, and the weight is acceptable. Because that mower is just way too heavy as is. I'll be blunt. I may end up just doing the GPS course in more like straight down the middle of the field. That is a temptation. It's the first little bit of grass that I've actually missed over there. This, by the way, is the joy of having the crop density set so high, is like, if you miss any little bit, it shows up. Whereas by default it doesn't. So there is kind of method behind the madness of me changing the density of the grass crop. And I must say this does look extremely pretty with the super dense grass and then going into the windrows. The fade is a bit off now because I've obviously changed inherent part of the map or integral part of the map. And there's still little gaps, so maybe they're supposed to be there. So what I'll do now is I'll get GPS running, and I need this. No, don't turn on GPS. Raise the mower. And I just want to get roughly halfway across the field here. We'll go new direction. That'll do as a straight line, I think. Because all I really want out of this is just a straight line so that I can follow it later on down the field. Obviously, I'm going to have to change it for the tree, but it should be relatively easy to follow for the most part. Maybe, hopefully, who knows. I've just realised that the very first pass I'm going to have to do is going to be the wonky one around the tree. So we can turn GPS off entirely now. I just needed it for that one singular pass. And what I can actually do, it's just occurred to me, is follow this line and then just kind of lift the mower when I get nearish the tree, and then just do a couple of loops around the tree in a headland style, and we should be good. So if I were to lift the mower, say here-ish, and just kind of get in here like this and just turn as tight as the tractor can, we can get a couple of headlands made around the tree. Like that. So the rest of it is just going to be meeting up with the line that I've already mowed. It should be okay. And just continuing onwards with the straight line mowing. In theory I should have come down to the tree first and done a couple of headlands, but meh, doesn't matter all that much. Once I get the wheel back running, by the way, I will have head tracking back, and I will do some in-camera work. I'll probably do a full episode in camera, or in cab, not in camera. Full episode in cab with the first-person camera. Because it has been a while since I've used it properly. And, sorry, the stream I have on it just went a bit silent, so I was just double checking chat to see what was going on. And it wasn't exploding with, oh god, the launch is cancelled. Yet. I get the feeling today's launch will be scrubbed, and there will be no Falcon Heavy launch. So apologies if I'm a bit distracted. I am following some... for those of you that don't know, because I don't usually cover too much on the channel, I am a bit of a space nerd. I do really enjoy rocketry and space. And I will watch as many different launches as I can. Like if there's a launch that happens outside of a stream time, I'll usually make time to try and watch it if it's, say, an hour. However, I do try and keep the channel first. This is one of the rare times where I'm putting the launch first because it is a... Well, it's the most powerful rocket and the heaviest rocket that currently exists. The most powerful and the most heavy since the Saturn V, which brought men to the moon. Although it was revealed recently that the Falcon Heavy is not being human rated, which means that it will never carry a human in its lifetime. So there won't be any moon missions. There was supposed to be one with the Falcon Heavy. Instead, SpaceX are apparently going to do the planned Falcon Heavy moon mission with the Big Falcon rocket, which the F there, the BFR, the F could stand for something else, because it is a big freaking rocket. I'm looking forward to I'm really looking forward to that when they finally get that built, because that thing is going to be massive and stupid and more powerful than anything the world has ever seen. That said, the Falcon Heavy is only going to be the most powerful launch vehicle in the world for about a year. Maybe two, because the Space Launch System from NASA is, I think, planned to have a test launch in 2019, if not 2020. And that is actually much more powerful than the Falcon 9. Or the Falcon Heavy even, and is going to take the record for the most powerful rocket ever. It's more powerful than a Saturn V. So I get to watch two historic launches potentially in 2 years. And what's important about the Space Launch System is the mission plan for that thing in the long term. Because there's a reason it's being compared to the Saturn V specifically. The Space Launch System is scheduled to have some moon landings. And in time, it's going to, in theory, all going according to plan, you know, presuming the moon landings go well. Manned moon landings, might I add. It's scheduled to bring people to Mars. That is actually in the mission plan, is a Mars landing. Manned. So that's really, really exciting. Not since the 60s have humans stepped foot up on any sort of terrain other than Earth. Actually, the 70s. 1972 was the last moon landing, I believe. Or maybe 73, around that era. So it's kind of awesome to be living in an era where we're planning moon landings again, and planning on going back to the moon, and then planning the next steps as well. The next step naturally being the first humans to set foot on another planet, because the moon isn't a planet, it's a moon. Mars, however, is a planet, and they would also be the first humans to leave the whoever is the first humans to do a flyby of Mars, you know, even that much, would be the first humans to ever leave the Earth's sphere of influence and enter solar orbit. Unless Russia accidentally did it in the 60s and covered it up because they had a habit of doing that. There are conspiracy theories that Yuri Gagarin was not the first man in space, that there were actually several dozen people before him, and because they all died, the Russians didn't bother ever mentioning that those people existed. Which, that's kind of grim, isn't it? In any case, back to the mowing, because that's what you're here for in theory. Do you know what? This field isn't as big as I had kind of thought. Yes, it's big, and yes, it's taking a little while. You know, we've been mowing for 20 minutes and we're getting there. But it's not as big as it feels. Or it doesn't feel as big as it looks, I guess. It is, yeah, a lot easier to mow with this than I was anticipating. I was anticipating this to take a lot longer than it is. I mean, granted, we are going quite fast with the mower. If I was using the Kverneland tire from CD Models, I'd be going a heck of a lot slower because that thing weighs literally 10 tons. And likes bottoming out for some reason, which is another reason why I want to try and tweak the suspension a bit. But I'll be honest, this isn't. I was fully anticipating this to, or this field at least, to be needing to be finished in the stream, and while it will, I was expecting to maybe be like on this pastel, or even, you know, barely into the field at all. I wasn't expecting to be in a situation where finishing it in a stream actually means finishing it in a stream. Or off camera, properly off camera. Because I would like to do some hay work on this field this week in a video, and I might do it while I'm having dinner. I might get Courseplay to do some tedding and stuff. By the way, this field also does not work with Courseplay. For those of you who don't come to the streams, the reasoning has been found. Oxygendavid and Bull Bill were ripping into everything. Oxygendavid found Courseplay documentation that explained exactly what the problem is. And it's something so obscure that it never occurred to any of us. So when you're making a field, you need to set a field ID marker. And that basically says, this is what field number this is. Normally, because fields are fields, you just throw that in the middle and you're fine. Oxygendavid did that in field 2 and in field 13 and in field 1 and in field 26, and there's a problem in all 4 of those fields with Courseplay. The field 26 problem hasn't technically been found yet, or I think it has been found by 1 or 2 people, but I can say that without even having played the field. How can I say that with certainty without ever having touched the field? Because I can see where the marker is. I'm just looking here, field... What field did I see there that might have a problem as well? Field 47 might be problematic. And the reason I can say that with some certainty is because where Oxygendavid put the field identity marker is over here. Now this isn't technically in the field. The field starts, and I'm just looking for the... Nope, I've passed over it. No, not. The field starts here, at this line. That's important because, as it turns out, you need to actually put the field ID markers on the terrain info layer, or the foliage info layer, that is the field. Else Courseplay will never ever pick it up. And that's not actually made public knowledge too easily by the Courseplay devs, which is a bit of a shame. That's why some maps have issues with Courseplay. Is because they got islands in the middle fields, like Oakfield does, that have the field info marker plunked on the island in the middle of the field instead of on the terrain detail layer. And it's a mistake that I don't even count as a mistake. It's a I would say it's actually a Courseplay issue more than a map issue, because they should have made it much easier for map makers to know this stuff than having to go through reams of documentation and dig it all up. Should be in, they should have like a single document, like tips for map makers, how to get Courseplay to work with your maps, because it like, that's a major issue. And nobody knew what was going on until Oxygendavid actually went through the documentation. It'd be nice if on the Courseplay website or on the Courseplay GitHub they link to a relatively short PDF or something, or text file, in various languages obviously, basically saying the don'ts of Courseplay for map makers. You know, don't have an island in the middle of your field when you put down the, or don't have an island exactly where you're putting down the train or the field info marker. Which, that's something Oxygendavid had to learn the hard way, unfortunately. And probably a few other people have learned from that too. And yeah, I'm not saying Oxygendavid screwed up, because he did exactly what he would have done normally, which was put the field info marker right in the middle of the field. He's going to have to move them probably in an update, possibly. Assuming he wants to do an update. Until then, if you want to use Courseplay and we'll say this field here, field 2, what you do is you calculate the current field's edge path, say it's field 2, and you add it to the list. That's... Actually, you need to double check if... yeah. There's the edge path there. It'll add it to the list quite nicely. And if I go over to fieldwork mode, field 2, visualize, there's the field edge path again that I just generated. So it's not the end of the world. It's an inconvenience at best. Whoops. I accidentally held down A bit. It's inconvenience at best that frankly isn't gonna really affect people who use Courseplay, because most people who use Courseplay or have used Courseplay for a while will know the old school Courseplay, where you had to manually drive around the field edges to generate the edge course. You had to save edge courses for every field. So this tab used to be full of like field 1, field 2, field 3, field 4, field 5, field 6, and you had to load it in over here. No, you had to load it up as you were generating the courses and say, yeah, generate from current course, because that was the only way to get field boundaries done. So the fact that Courseplay now auto-detects is great. The fact that you can do a manual detect as well is brilliant. It saves you having to faff about and basically at the start of the map drive around every field. Because you basically ended up having one super fast tractor that was intentionally like cheaty fast just to generate Courseplay courses. And that was really, this is back in FS13 when, you know, everything was super basic and everything was, the world was in black and white. But it was, that's how Courseplay was used back then by everybody. And I almost feel like people should find a way to get FS13 Courseplay and FS13 and try them out, because it is a world of a difference what you can do in FS17 Courseplay compared to what you could do back then. You know, just completely different mods almost. It's come along so far, and the people who are newer to the game maybe don't realise that. Same with map making. Try out an FS13 map and compare it to Oakfield, compare it to the West Coast, compare it to Chellington. No, Chellington wasn't FS13, I don't think. But compare it to Cobra is not fair, because Cobra was out in FS13 originally. Compare it to like any of the new maps that are FS17 specific and that you would consider top quality. You know, everybody's standards of quality are different, but compare that to FS13 maps and maybe it'll match because you've got low standards. Maybe like me, the FS13 maps will look hilariously bad compared to what your current quality standards are. The same goes for mods. Mods in FS13, my standards were hilariously... I used to use any junk that would download properly. And I didn't know how to do anything with it, so I just kind of made do. And now if there's a mod that needs a couple of tweaks, I'll do a couple of tweaks. You know, I've done some reskinning, I've done some tweaking to textures, I've done some tweaking to physics, and I'm going to do some tweaking to the physics of the Cavern and Tarot mower as well. To try, well, at least I'm going to try and tweak the physics of that, to try and get it to work as it would in real life. But that is going to do it for me for today. I'll leave you by saying I've been RainbowDave. You've been watching Farming Simulator 17 on Oakfield Farm. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button, hit subscribe, share the video, and follow all the links in the description to various merch and social media things, and join the Discord. Please do. Don't be afraid to... By the way, if you're in the Discord, don't be afraid to speak. I know that there's some like running jokes and stuff and general madness going on in there usually, but you're more than welcome to join in the fun and get used to the insanity that is the Discord. But until next time, stay safe and goodbye.